Yeah. All right. I feel like I should do this over again, but we'll just continue. So welcome, Renaud. Thank you so much for joining us despite your busy schedule. And one of the first things is just to give the audience an idea of what Eventbrite is, as some of them used it to RSVP, but then some are future entrepreneurs and may not, some may know about it and some may not know about it.
Thank you everyone for coming. It's great to be here. I was going on vacation in Tanzania and Kenya, and I thought, why not meet the local tech community? I know we have a lot of events going on our platform in Nairobi, so I was curious to see who our users are and what the state of the technology is around here. So I contacted some friends and met some great people like Juliana and Eric. And some other people. Yesterday we had a nice dinner. So it's great to be face-to-face with the people who are making a positive impact in Africa, and I think I'll keep doing that in the future. I really love these connections. We started Eventbrite with the simple idea of enabling anyone to create a live experience. So a live experience like this one, where we gather together because we're interested in technology. We want to hear about someone who's done something, or you're interested in a hobby, you want to get together, learn how to do it. So we created this platform that enables anyone, pretty much anywhere in the world. We have events in 187 countries, I think, last year. To create a web presence for their events, to create a mobile version of that, to sell tickets online, to advertise, to keep track of who's coming from where, and eventually to sell out and get as many people as possible to their events. So we started in 2006. It's been almost 9 years. We started with three co-founders. My two co-founders are a couple. They were just dating at the time. Now they're married with 2 kids. So I saw them build their own family at the same time as they were building the company. It was pretty interesting. And we've grown. Now we have almost 400 employees. We have 6 offices. San Francisco is our main hub. We also have a team in London, about 30 people. We acquired a company in South America last year, so we have a team in Argentina, in Mendoza, and a team in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And this year we've opened smaller offices in Dublin and Melbourne in Australia. So international expansion is one of our big push right now. We raised a total of $200 million over the years. And a big part of the latest rounds were to fund this international growth that we're really after.
Fantastic. So if you could tell us a little bit about, I apologize. So if you could tell us a little bit about some of the businesses you were involved in before Eventbrite, or some of the businesses that you feel led to Eventbrite, and also how you picked your co-founder, because some of the audience members are future entrepreneurs, some of them are collaborating with others. How did you, so sort of before Eventbrite and the early days of Eventbrite?
So I believe a lot of these stories of successful startups are very unique, and ours is pretty unique in that sense. I'm not a computer science graduate. I studied civil engineering. I worked as a civil engineer for 5 years coming out of school. That was right about the same time as the internet started taking off, so the 1995 through 2000 years. And I was working as a civil engineer in San Francisco, working in the field, cleaning up polluted sites for big corporations. And I needed some web tools to do my job better, so I learned how to code so I could create an interface between the web or the web browser that we were using every day and the accounting software that we were using that was not internet ready at all. So I wrote some ASP code at the time to interface between the web browser and this SQL server that was running all our data. And slowly I kept building on it and improving it as I saw my needs being unfilled by the current offering of the software. And then in 2000, I decided to switch over to the internet because I had way more fun doing the work that I did with the SQL accounting database than doing my regular job. So I took a job as a junior web programmer with a photo sharing startup. It was called Zing, Z-I-N-G. It lasted for about a year. We raised $50 million, I think, and I was employee number 30. We went all the way up to 120 employees, and we went back to 10 in 1 year. So that's the type of experience that I almost felt like I was living it from the outside. I was seeing all these exponential growth charts that were popular at the time. It was all about gaining eyeballs, not caring at all about how you're going to make revenue at some point. What are you selling? Are you having any customers? All the things that I think now are much more ingrained into how you build a startup. Like you're going to have a revenue model at some point. At the time, it didn't matter. There were these giant IPOs for companies that were losing hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody really cared. As long as you went to an IPO, everybody wanted tech stocks, and I learned a lot through that experience, a lot of what not to do when you create a company. A big part of the responsibility, I think, was on the management team. They responded to the current aspirations of the investors, and all they cared about is when are you going public. So that was learnings that we used, and I think my co-founder went through the same experience. Kevin Hart is one of my co-founders with Julia Hart. He was one of the first investors in PayPal, and after PayPal really started taking off in the early 2000s, he started thinking about businesses he could build on top of PayPal. And eventually that became the idea for Eventbrite. There was no tools out there that gave the money directly to the organizers. And PayPal, with just an email address, you could set up an account, and you could give us that email address and we could send you money. So that really was the foundation of Eventbrite, something very simple, very easy to use, that only required your email address to start having a web presence and to sell tickets in a few minutes. So that's how we started really with the concept of Eventbrite. We evolved over the years. We now have our own payment solution, but PayPal is still a big part of why we exist now. It's looking at the technology that evolves, seeing how you can take pieces from different parts, like the mobile revolution helped us greatly. Facebook helped us tremendously. People want to share that they go to events, and integrating with Facebook was one of the best things we did. Facebook didn't exist when we started. It existed, but it wasn't as popular when we started. So it's looking at these technologies as they evolve and seeing how you can take advantage of them to create new business models. I think that's the way to find potential ideas and potential business models for startups. To go back to how I met my co-founders, I work with several great engineers when I worked at Zing in 2000, and one of them went on to work for another company that Kevin founded in 2001. So at the end of 2005, Kevin left that company and decided to start Eventbrite, and he asked around who knew a good engineer who could help him build a company, and my friend introduced me, and that's how we got started. I didn't know them before. We worked kind of on an agreement basis at the beginning, and then slowly we saw that it was working very well. We were trusting each other. I was the only tech guy on the team. They were doing everything else: business, marketing, sales, customer support. So there was a clear definition of the roles. I think that helped us tremendously. I don't know who your co-founders are, but that's, I think, one of the keys to have clear areas of responsibilities and don't step on each other's toes too much. I mean, you need to brainstorm, you need to share ideas, you need to exchange all the time, but in the end, there should be an ultimate decision maker that has overriding power over the others, I think, to reach a consensus and move forward, because you need to move forward, you need to move fast, so you need to make this decision process as smooth as possible, and don't slow down because you can't agree on something.
Great. So it's funny that one of your first apps was done in ASP. So Ushahidi was also written. The very first prototype was in ASP, and I actually, before Ushahidi, I was working at Sprint in the US, and I actually do remember those heady internet bubble days. So your point about making sure to think about the revenue model early, I think is really important, because at the end of the day, you could get a lot of funding for something that doesn't have a revenue model, but then it'll fizzle out pretty quickly. But if you do have a revenue model and you do get funding, then it can get you to the next level and you can continue to build your business. So speaking of the early days again, there's an adage that in the journey of an entrepreneur, you've got to wash dishes. So what are some of the things that you did early on that you were involved in that, looking back, may have seemed like washing dishes type tasks?
Well, I think getting every single email from any of your customers is washing dishes, and you need to hear what they say, but it's a lot of communication back and forth of people who have very different needs. We are lucky to have been pretty successful even at the beginning, so we were getting emails from all randoms type of organizers with very different needs, very different types of events that they were running, different sizes, different locations. But I think it was great. I mean, we had that direct connection with all our customers. We could hear in real time what they thought about the product. We could integrate that into our decision process and react very quickly. I think you build that initial feeling for your company in the early days as much as now. The philosophy of your company, like, do you want to be listening to your customers all the time, reacting to their needs, fixing things as fast as possible, all these core values to your company that you want to keep forever. And I think having that direct interaction at the beginning really helped us understand that it's critical to listen to your customers. If you stop listening to them, then you'll be disconnected at some point, and you'll build things because you think they're great, not because you validated that someone needs them. And there's a big risk as you expand to try to take on too many things, or to pivot into something that has no appeal to anyone. So I think we were very careful about doing this from day one. And as a tech guy, I was the only tech guy on the team, so I had to do pretty much everything. So that includes many different types of dishes. Running servers, installing databases, upgrading everything, writing the code, we were not writing tests at the time, but now you should probably write tests, and it's part of all the frameworks out there. So there's a lot of things you have to do that are not maybe part of your long-term skills or things that you need to keep on, but you have limited resources, so you need to allocate them wisely and take care of all parts of the business. And eventually you start hiring people who are better than you at some of the parts that are your weaknesses. I think that's how you build a great team. It's realizing what you're short on, what you don't know very well, what you cannot do very well, or don't have the time to do anymore. And then you hire these people to fill the voids. And that's pretty much how we've scaled the company from 3 to 400 without too many hiccups. It's very challenging, and you're going through that right now. It's probably the key into the long-term success of a company, and the hardest things to do. Execution is key. If you don't execute well, you might have the best idea in the world. The company is not going to succeed. You need to realize that, hire the right people, and raise money when you really need it.
Yeah. So thank you. And I looked at I find the localization and the global growth quite interesting. There's a version of Eventbrite all the way from Argentina to the UK, Peru, and a few other countries, Mexico. My question around that is, what are your thoughts around localization, its importance in the strategy of of scaling and of growth. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of, or localization in general, and how you were able to do that from a technical level, but also from a strategy perspective.
So, yeah, I think internationalization is a key to becoming a global company. All big companies have to go through that at some point. You can live off a big market like the US. You can't do that if you start in France or if you start in Kenya. I don't think you can make a huge company out of one country. So thinking about how you're going to expand internationally is pretty key from the beginning. We didn't really address it until 5 years after we started. Our code base wasn't ready. We had a custom framework that didn't have any marked strings, for example, didn't care about formatting of numbers, of dates. So we had to take some time at some point to make our code base ready for internationalization. And I did a lot of this work, so I know how complex it is. You are very lucky nowadays to have frameworks like Django or Ruby on Rails or all these other frameworks that have this built in. You can't ignore it because it's part of the framework. Having to do it manually required a lot of effort, about 6 months' time for us to be ready to be translated. It's not only, we were kind of pushed into internationalization, it's a long word, by our clients. We were selling tickets mostly for free events, but in a lot of countries. And London already was our third biggest city in 2008, I think, as early as that. So we were seeing really good growth in all the English-speaking countries, but we knew that US English wasn't enough. The UK English is slightly different. People are actually do care about these differences. So we decided to do that work, to invest some time, some effort to make our platform ready, and to think about how we were going to expand. So in 1 year, 2011, we launched in 2011-2012, we launched in 7 countries in Europe: France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Holland, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. I think most of our translation work was done then. We kind of did it backward. We didn't have the strategy totally ready when we did that. We said we will launch in all these countries and see what happens. Retrospectively, I think that was maybe not the right thing to do. We went back 2 years later and we completely rethought the process. So instead of just launching randomly in what we thought were the biggest countries, for us, we came up with the idea of creating a playbook, something you can define and build, and that will be your roadmap for expanding into other countries. So we took a pause on our internationalization efforts, just to be able to build that playbook that can help us down the line expand into the entire world, because we do want to be everywhere at some point. And we started experimenting with smaller countries. Like, we relaunched in Ireland about 6 months ago. We started hiring people locally. We did a big press tours with my 2 other co-founders. We did a lot of marketing efforts. We hired salespeople. We hired community managers, all in the market, and tried to correlate each of these initiatives into an impact on the growth, so that we could eventually have this playbook that tells us that if you do PR, for example, you'll get 15% increase in awareness, or whatever other measurement you have for each action that you took. And we are on our way to have that playbook ready. We did the same thing in Australia, and now we're experimenting with pricing options. We are experimenting with other different levers that eventually will make us like a recipe book that you follow. You decide which country you want to go into, you follow these steps, and hopefully you get the expected results.
Is that playbook something that you can share?
The playbook?
Yeah.
And it's very dependent on your industry, on your business model,
Okay.
on the competition? Is it a completely new idea that has no other impact anywhere else?
And it sounds like it's quite data driven, and it sounds like you do a lot of experiments where you try something and then you see how it goes, and then is that about?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And having these small countries to experiment on was great because there's a limited population. Ireland has 4 million people. 3 million of them live in Dublin or something, or no, 1 million of them. So 25% of the population is in one city. Okay. We're very city-driven. A lot of events happen in big cities like Nairobi, Dublin, London. So having these countries with one big city are perfect for us as experimentation grounds. Great. And we did experiment with a fee promotion that we had not done anywhere else, for example, and we saw a big impact on sign-ups. And each time we try to find an indicator that correlates to the lever that we moved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So the last question, that way we can open it up for your questions, is just how do you as an individual handle growth from the time when you were 2 people, 6 people, and how did that go to 400? Any tips for us who are managing growth and others who will grow and will be expanding into other markets?
Well, again, I think that's very individual. You're going to decide which path you want to take and which things interest you in the evolution of the company. I think I knew early on that I didn't want to be a full-time manager. That didn't appeal to me that much. So pretty early on in 2009, we hired our first VP of engineering who would take care of all the management aspects of the engineering team. So I could focus on what I thought was important on the architecture side, on the internationalization side, on the more technical aspects of building a great product. In the end, I think I'm someone who likes building things. That's why I was a civil engineer at some point. I like to build products. I like to build things with my hands. I was building these castles when I was younger and with metallic parts and things like that. So I've always been interested in the product itself more than I think the employee relations that some people really enjoy. So realizing what your strengths and weaknesses are, evolving with the organization as well, know where your place is within the organization. I probably don't have as much power now that I had before when I was running the entire team, but I'm much happier personally. So finding that right balance between what you aspire to do and what's best in the end for the organization, I think is really hard sometimes to accept and to enforce.
Great. So we'll turn it back to you, the audience. Anyone with a first question?
Hi, my name is James. If you don't mind, 2 people, 3 people to 400 within that space it's quite a steep curve. Could you break it down chronologically, as in year 1, this is what we did, year 2, these were achievements, 3, 4. Okay, you don't have to get into so much detail, but if you could summarize it, that's 1. And 2, at what point did the company become profitable? And at what point did you begin to meet the ROI, the sold ROI to your investors?
Well, I'll start with the second one because it's easier. We're not profitable yet. We've raised a lot of money because we want to grow as fast as possible. I think there's this hyper growth phase that a lot of companies in our state of evolution are going through. The Ubers, the Airbnbs, these type of companies that have want to grab as much market share as possible, as fast as possible. That's why they raised $1 billion like Uber. We raised a lot of money to be present in as many markets as we can as fast as possible, to have the best products we can develop as fast as possible. So we did make a conscious decision not to be profitable for the time being, and use the money that we raised to build the things we want to build. As far as the history of the company, we were 3 people for about 2 years. So it took us a while to hire our first person. We really wanted to validate the model to create this MVP product that would satisfy most of our customers. So we took our time to do that. We changed branding. We had a different placeholder brand at the beginning that had nothing to do with events. So we switched to Eventbrite in early 2007. We raised 2 small rounds, $1 million each. I think it was 2007, 2008. 2009, we started hiring more. I think at the end of the year, we have about 30 people. And that's when we raised money from Sequoia. It was our first significant round, 6.5 million. And then every year we kind of double, I think 30, 60, 120, 240, and now close to 400. So we've moved offices 6 times, I think. That's something else you need to worry about when you grow. Where you're going to be next, how much time you have in this place, how are you going to pay for it, how are you going to put your employees, move them, make sure they're all happy in the move. We had to do a lot of negotiations with employees to figure out where we could be. All the practical details that are kind of important when you scale. Raising money gets easier and easier as you prove that your model is valid, that you have the right team in place to execute on what you thought you were going to build, that the results follow. We're very good at predicting how much money we're going to make a year from now, because we have this repeat business. We have a lot of data that we collect all the time that tells us how we're doing on plan, and usually we're within 5 or 10% of our plan a year from now. So that's very powerful when you go and meet investors. They can show, you can show them that you've been able to pretty much plot the trajectory of your company from day one, and they can trust that you are the right people to make it happen to the next level. And we're still growing at 60% year-over-year growth. So we sold $1 billion worth of tickets last year. So it's starting to be very big numbers. That's why we're not worried about profitability, for example. We know we can be profitable pretty quickly if we want to, especially at this rate of growth.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Sydney. I was just wondering, so you mentioned that the idea for Eventbrite came from plugging in with like PayPal. So what ideas are you seeing that can plug in with Eventbrite going forward, that have already been plugged in or that you can see could be plugged in?
Well, we knew early on that we wanted to be a platform, so we had an API from, I think, 2 years after we started, which might seem long in this day and age where everything is built on APIs. But at the time, it was a conscious decision to be opening up our platform to the outside world. And we've had, I think, 10,000 different applications built on top of our platform. A lot of them are making decent money. There's a lot of mobile applications, for example, for events, companies that have been built like this, management of tracks, for example, for conferences, and there's a whole slew of companies that have emerged thanks to this connection with our platform. So we're not quite Facebook, but we also have a quite significant developer base that helps us also fill the gaps that we don't want to address directly. I think it makes our product stronger, having that ecosystem of developers who are expanding what can be done if you use our platform. We're integrated, it's fairly easy once you've worked on an integration. So there's all these peripheral services that can be added very easily after that. So I think that's very powerful. You should think about being a platform first and then build your own product, and hopefully there's enough interest in your own product that other developers will expand your reach and your capabilities.
I was nodding vigorously because platform thinking is very, very important. It's something that I've written about, and it's as you build your companies, figure out whether you want to build a platform or you want whatever you're building to sit on top of a platform, or and also what ecosystem are you a part of? The great thing about this particular ecosystem is we hope to expose you to different experiences, and hopefully we can continue to build some interesting things locally.
Hi, my name is Mbogwa. One question, who's going to take you guys out? Have you thought of that? Are you preparing for it? I don't think it's a currently existing company. Someone will have to come with a much better solution out there to take us out, I think, at this point. This business is not as fast and fast-moving as other types of industries. Events take time to organize. This one probably took us a couple of months. You had to pick a platform. You have all this trust built into the platform you're currently using. So displacing a current solution is really time-consuming. It takes a lot of resources. We kind of are at that point with Ticketmaster in the US, for example. They have pretty much all the sporting arenas, all the big music concerts. They have long-term contracts with them. So we're not directly competing with them yet, but we're getting close to that, and it's going to be a very long battle if we go there. That's why we've consciously decided at the beginning to stay away from these big established players and to address what we think is a much bigger market, the smaller, medium-sized events, the classes, the small meetings like this, that had no solution at all before. And we've seen many copycats emerge in different countries, but we think we have the best team in place, the largest engineering team in the business. We have the most money raised of any company of our type. So I think we've done the things that we needed to do to execute well on our promise of creating that product that anybody can use to manage their events.
Hi, my name is Washira. Now I'd like to just go back to when you guys were starting up. And as an engineer, I completely resonate with the fact that you prefer to build than manage, right? But how did you work through dealing with the friction of also needing to do what you needed to do? As opposed, because as an engineer starting up, you have to also work on different things, like work on the business plan, the business model, business strategy, that sort of thing. But of course,
I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in the business side, you don't have to participate as long as your co-founders are take care of that part and you think they're doing a great job at it. Like my co-founder is really a pure entrepreneur. He thinks business all the time and he sees ideas for businesses like non-stop. I'm not like that. I can build something that I think has potential and addresses a current need. But I wasn't as interested in the business model per se. So I think you have to decide what you want to be involved in, and if you're good at it, if someone is better than you, then let them do it. I think that's part of delegating some responsibilities to different people on the team and letting them own. Like I wasn't part of the fundraising activities, for example. Kevin is well connected, he's an investor himself, he knows everyone. I think he was much better positioned than I was to be raising money, and that proved very successful.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Fred, and I think I'll be asking the first tech-oriented question, mostly around mobile. I really like your Android app, man, the user experience is brilliant. So I wanted to know, what are the strategies you use when developing for mobile? Do you start with iOS first, then go to Android? What about your testing? Do you do beta testing on any of your consumers? Yeah, so that's what I wanted to know.
We started with an iOS app, just because one of our engineers was playing with iOS and really liked it. So it was more of a circumstantial decision than really a strategy. But we knew iOS was needed for us. We were already using it as for the entry manager application. So the application that the organizers use to scan the tickets at the door. I don't know if you're using it here, but a lot of that was our first iOS application. The one you're referring to is probably our attendee app, where you find events, you have your ticket on the app. That's the most used one. And we started with iOS. We pretty quickly had an Android version, which tried to stay on par as far as feature-wise. So we tried to keep the development process in sync pretty much, so we don't have a big gap between the two. We realize Android is very much used everywhere in the world and taking over in percentage share of usage. So it's definitely a place we want to be present and have the best experience possible. So we hired a lot of Android developers. We also don't ignore people who land on the site on their mobile phones. It was a very bad experience until very recently. About 2 months ago, if you went to eventbrite.com on your mobile phone, you would get a landing page basically that has 3 functionality. You could maybe log in if we switched to the full version, but it was definitely a horrendous experience. So we said, let's stop everything, put all the engineers on creating a responsive site. So every page of the site has to be responsive. And we gave ourselves 3 weeks to do that. So we put the 60 plus engineering members on this. We had our design team solely focused on this, our product team solely focused on this. We stopped everything else. And now if you go to the site on your mobile device, you'll see that everything looks good and is usable. You can actually manage your event now. You can create an event very easily on the mobile version. So the apps are great, but you can't ignore the mobile web. I think it's still very prevalent. A lot of our ticket sales are 10 times higher on mobile web than on the mobile apps currently. So we have to cater to that. We have to cater to the organizers who want to be able to change things on the go, whether it's on their iPad, their tablet, their phones. And that's why we made this big effort, and it's paying off greatly. Like our conversion rate on the create pages increased, I think, tenfold since we launched 2 weeks ago. So it has a direct impact on the bottom line, but it requires a big commitment at some point if you're not ready. If you're building something from scratch today, then it should definitely be responsive. It should be almost a different UI with the same code base if you can, but the specificities of interactions on the mobile devices is very different than the web, so you need to rethink the UI for the different types of devices that you want to cater to. Testing, we have a big team, so we do a lot of testing in-house. We get people in a room, maybe 30, 40 people, and let them bang on the prototypes that we come up with, find a lot of bugs this way, and then we address them quickly. And we usually try to release to everyone at the same time. We don't have too many private betas with customers, especially for the attendee app, which it's complicated, but not as complicated as some of the other apps we have.
I have a question from over this side.
My name is John. I have 3 questions. Wow. Very short ones. The first one is, does Eventbrite have mobile payments? One thing about Kenya that is world famous is our M-Pesa mobile payment solution, and a host of other mobile payment solutions with our telcos. So it would be interesting to know your take on that. Question 2 is, what is your strategy on acquisition? So you mentioned something on internationalization. I'm having a problem with that word. Do you set up like a local presence and integrate with the global Eventbrite, or do you acquire? The reason for that question is here in Nairobi, we have a very famous similar service. It's called Ticket Sasa that is very popular with events. I think apart from this particular community, iHub, which the founders have that American and international exposure, a lot of local people tend to use Ticket Sasa. So I would like to know your strategy on acquisition. And then my third question is, it's very chilly in Nairobi today. Aren't you cold?
It's what? Sorry. It's chilly?
I'm just saying Nairobi is a bit chilly today, so I'm seeing everyone in there. Aren't you feeling cold, given that you're a visitor, so you can tell us about that?
I'm used to the San Francisco weather, so
great.
I don't care about chilly too much.
So on acquisition and mobile payments.
Yep. So payments in general is a big hurdle when you talk about internationalization. Even Germany has different methods of payments, so we are building the integrations that we need with the payment providers that we need for each country as we go into that country in full mode. So if we were going to Kenya, for sure we would integrate with M-Pesa. Currently we don't have that many other mobile payment solutions that are as ubiquitous as M-Pesa is in Kenya. I think you're one of the leaders in mobile payments, which is great for your economy. We just haven't had an imperative to integrate with any providers until this moment, and I hope we can be in Kenya at some point and integrate with that. Acquisitions, we've only made 2 so far. We acquired Lanyard, which was a UK-based company that listed tech events. So it was a crowdsourcing listing of tech events around the world. They had probably the biggest database of tech events, and it could be managed by the crowd. We acquired a team also. Simon is the co-founder of Django, so a very bright team with incredible engineers. One of them is one of our best Android engineers. So it was talent acquisition and also some of the crowd technology that they were using we were very interested in. The second one was more of a local play, so it was Event Heroes, which was based in Argentina. We acquired the team because we felt the management team was very like kindred spirits to us. They had the same philosophy, the same ideal view of the market and what they wanted to build. So there was a real connection there. And you kind of have to have that and be very careful about merging with other companies. It's very, if you do it too early or with the wrong crowd, you can easily crash your company as a result. So we've kept their brand going until now. We're talking about integration and replacing their brand eventually with the Eventbrite brand as a global brand. But I think each acquisition will require a different strategy depending on the team in place, depending on the potential for growth, on how do they fit within your main organization, and how much of a distraction is it going to be to do the integration. I think a lot of integrations fail because either it takes too long, or you have the wrong people on the integration side, or you don't have any interest from the headquarters to really push that integration. So acquisitions are tricky. You need to wait until you find the right match and then do everything you can to make it work. I have not, and we see a lot of competitors, so they should come to SF and come talk to us, because we've talked to probably hundreds of companies that do something similar to us all over the world. And we like to talk to them. Let's see which markets are taking off, which specificities of the market exist, because we are going to need to do some work to be present in these markets at some point.
Now, I hate to be that guy, but we'll try to limit it to 1 question per person, and then once everyone has asked their question, then we can start then you can start asking multiple questions again. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sam, and I have a question about growing your development team. When you have lots of new hires coming on board, what's the experience of a new developer on their first day, their first week, and their first month at Eventbrite?
I think the first day is like welcome day, so you meet different people from different groups that tell you more about the company, how do we do things, what do we stand for, a lot of HR, I think. First week, you read a lot of documentation that we have on the systems. You start looking at code. You're usually paired with someone who's more senior, who understands the platform very well. You start writing, probably fixing a couple bugs here and there. Depends on your level of seniority, I think. people who have experience dealing with complex code bases pick it up really fast. Junior people tend to take a bit more time to learn the ropes and need more coaching, I think, to understand all the logic. 8 years of development results in complicated systems. I think no company is immune to that. You just keep on building features after features, and as the technology that you're using evolves, the old parts of the system will still remain the same. So we try to re-engineer a lot of the parts as we go, but there's always technical debt that is in place. I think no company is immune to that. And it takes a while for people to be fully productive. I think it takes at least 3 months for a new engineer to fully understand the system. And even people who have been with the company for 4 years still haven't touched every part of it. We're an e-commerce company. We have payouts to organizers. We have payments in. We have invoices. We have complicated accounting. So there's a lot of complexity in the product that might not be evident when you buy a ticket, but that are a true fact and take a lot of time to master. That's why you want to retain good engineers, because they're so valuable and they have a lot of knowledge inside them that is hard to replace.
So I decided to give a hats off to your social media team. We actually tweeted the quote of the question asking about mobile payments, and Eventbrite Help, their Twitter account, answered, responding that they didn't have it.
They're awake now. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so take another question.
Hello, my name is Edward, and I'll take you back to the question of integration and opening your platform to, the external world. And how do you, ensure that you are still in control of your platform, and probably from a business perspective, what are the risks that you see when you open up your platform, to that ecosystem of the developers out there?
So what impact does it have on our business?
Yes, and probably which could be the same risks that any startup or technology startup could face when having such a platform, and he would want to open up to the outside world.
So our APIs are free. We don't charge anyone to use them. The impact on the business, we track how many events are created, how many tickets are sold through events that were created through partners. That's one way we can monitor. We track how many calls to different API calls, to different methods. But it's very hard to quantify the impact that an API has economically. I think you can see how many developers have apps that are running out there, but quantifying how much business you get out of it is very hard. I think they get business because they enhance the experience for the organizer or the attendee, and they can generate businesses this way, but sometimes it doesn't have any impact on our business. It just makes us more attractive because we have all these plugins, all these people who have different solutions to take care of some of their problems. So it's almost like we have a big engineering team out there that is helping us build functionality that we are not in a position to build. Our team is, even though we have 100 engineers, we're limited to what we can do. We have these millions of users everywhere, and we want to cater to all of them, but at the same time be very strategic about the things that we want to do. And having these APIs out there allows the ecosystem to grow, and I just can't put a price on that. Well, we don't really manage it. We have a community developer site where people can find information. We run all the API code ourselves. We don't use any other third parties. We get in touch with developers that build great applications. We monitor their usage. We try to surface the best integrations out there, the ones that are going to have the most impact for our potential clients. We try to engage them. We go to hackathons. We throw hackathons once in a while. Just try to be part of the community.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Joe. My question is, with your various stages of funding, how have you managed to keep control, or if you have, and what has been the impact of all the other investors coming in?
And you want, it's all a matter of negotiations when you raise money. So you try to wait as long as possible to be in the best position to raise the most money at the most advantageous terms. And I think that's how you can manage to keep as much as possible of the equity. You also take your time and find the right partners. I think that's the most important piece. The ones that you think will be aligned with your vision, the ones that you want to work with. It's a long-term commitment. It's like getting married. Our investors who signed up in 2008, 2009, they're still with us. They'll be with us for a long time. They're on our board. They send us email all the time. We send them updates. So it's like a relationship that you need to make sure is going to work. So taking your time, finding the right people, and letting our board of directors was very strategic how we build it. We have the ex-CEO of Ticketmaster on our board. We have someone from Netflix, someone from LinkedIn. So very strategic people that we went after specifically to enrich our board and get better feedback on our strategy, help us guide the business towards its fullest potential. But you have to always make trade-offs when you do that. Like, they'll get some equity, the investors get some equity, and hopefully you can maintain control of the board by just doing a great job and delivering on what you promise. I think that's the best way of not being afraid of getting ousted by the board. And you hear these stories all the time, but usually it's because the business fails to deliver and the team that's in place needs to be replaced by someone else.
So we'll just take one more question and then we're going to end the question period here.
Hi, my name is Judith and I'm from Akira Chicks. So I have a question about your first startup. I think it's Zling or something, where you had 120 staff and then the number came back down to 10. So my question is, what was the experience of reducing that number? I think that's something that people rarely talk about. You just hear that one sentence statement. So how did you go about reducing the workers?
So it's pretty simple. There was 2 rooms and you either go to one room or you go to the other based on the directions of your director. And a couple of times my director was in the other room and he's the one who got let go and I got a promotion. So every time there was layoffs, I think we went through 3 rounds of layoffs, I got a promotion each time because they want to keep the people who remain. It's kind of a surreal experience because in America, I don't know how it is here, you have to leave the building right away. So they take whoever was in the room that were let go. The HR person told them that we don't have any more money, we're running out, we have to let some people go, and unfortunately it's your turn. It's pretty harsh. There were a lot of people crying on the outside, they had to give up their computers, so it's not a pleasant experience for sure, especially when you kind of see it written on the wall, when you see these presentations by the execs that have no reality. Like, there were projections in the future that made no sense to my eyes. I think maybe they were trying to please the investors too much, or I don't know what the exact fault was, but it was pretty harsh and it's not fun. So that's why you don't want to be in that position. We don't want to be in that position. We took our time to grow. I think a lot of companies grow maybe too fast, and at some point they realize they can't sustain the rhythm they've adopted, and they need to let go of people. But keep your business growing, keep your team expanding, but within reason. We could be hiring a lot more. We have a lot of cash. We just decide to be strategic about it and preserve the long-term life expectancy of the company. We want this company to be there 20, 30 years from now, and that requires discipline and great execution, I think.
So thank you so much. And I'll ask really quickly, I know we didn't do this beforehand, but is there a t-shirt or coffee? Coffee? Let's do coffee. If you could bring up 2 pieces of coffee. And Josiah is here, is the executive director of the iHub. I'll have him maybe just quick last minute wrap-up remarks. I know, and then we can hand them over to.
Okay, I wasn't expecting to do this. I have a cold, so yeah. Thanks for taking your time to come to the iHub. I think we're all really appreciative of what you've shared, especially the young and upcoming and a few more experienced startups around here. The lessons I think that you've shared and you're experiencing, both the good stuff and the bad stuff, I think has been very useful. So on behalf of the community here, we want to say asante sana. Enjoy the coffee.
Yeah, that's it. You're welcome to hang out. We have pretty decent Wi-Fi, and Rose is here for a little bit longer. And for those who are joining us to say goodbye to Scott. Scott has been amazing. This is his last day, so if we could take a quick moment to just thank Scott. He's going back to Canada. We are going to miss you terribly. And I don't know, Nakesa, do you have anything to say for the community? Any upcoming events that they need to know about?
Tomorrow,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, tomorrow night we actually have a guest speaker. His name's Ian Virgin. He's an entrepreneur in residence at a university in Canada, and he's going to be here discussing lean startups and his experience running a lean launchpad accelerator. So it's great for anyone that's interested in the concept of lean startup or is really considering any accelerator program. So that'll be at the iHub tomorrow starting at 5:30.
Great.
That's all the updates for this week.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening. We'll see you for the next Fireside Chat or that event tomorrow. And do keep in touch via our Twitter account, Facebook page. I think we have all of
We have everything.
Covered, so please let us know how.
Make sure to check our Eventbrite. We post all our events on there.
Yeah, obviously.